And so, for our first story that we have right over here, we are going to be talking about one of the biggest animation news that actually occurred last week. And not just one of the biggest news, but also the biggest night of animation of the year. And I am talking, of course, about the Annie Awards, or more specifically, the 45th annual Annie Awards that has occurred last week. And I decided to go and check out the entire show myself to see what is going on, and they kept it simple and sweet, and it really was such a blast to go and watch. And of course, there are plenty of memorable moments that did happen in the show. And there are several moments that I could really think on top of my head, of course. There is Tom Kenny and Jorge Gutierrez. They know how to put on a show. Tom Kenny with such amazing high energy, always a blast whenever he's on stage. And also Jorge Gutierrez, who decided to come in with a lucha mask, kind of like a tie-in to his recent animated short, which is Son of Jaguar. Definitely funny, but he definitely... he sure knows how to put on a show. There's also other moments, including the crew of Samurai Jack, with the exception of one woman, decided not to come at the Annie Awards. Like, nobody was there. None of the art directors, none of the production designers, not even Gendy Tartakovsky was even at the Annie Awards for some reason or another. I have no idea. Then there is also... oh yeah, there's one storyboard artist that just refuses to leave. Like, he was probably a little too honored that he actually won an Annie Award. And then also, of course, there is a tear-jerking tribute to the late and great June Foray. Now, all this and more actually happened at the Annie Awards, and you can actually go ahead and check it out on their YouTube channel, on the official Asifa Hollywood YouTube channel, where they have uploaded many of the great highlights that actually did happen at this year's Annie Awards, including the entire show itself, which went on for a little less than 2.5 hours. So if you are an animation fan, then you should do yourself a favor and go ahead and subscribe to the Asifa Hollywood YouTube channel. Now, with all that said, that's just a little piece of the award show itself. Now, let's actually go ahead and move on to the actual awards, like which ones are the big winners. Well, let me start things off by going into the television categories, and from there are a lot of major winners, and there is a little bit of a variety that actually did happen. First and foremost, the ones that actually did get away with the most Annie Awards is Disney Mickey Mouse, which every year it seems like it is an Annie's favorite, and that show would always walk away with a few Annies, so no surprise that that one actually got 3 Annie Awards. And then you also got Samurai Jack, the final season that aired in 2017, that actually walked away with 3 Annie Awards as well. But the one that actually got the big Annie Awards, one for Best Writing and one for Best Animated Series for a general audience, would actually be for Rick and Morty. However, there are plenty of other shows that actually did win an Annie Award as well. Some of these include DreamWorks Troll Hunters, there was SpongeBob SquarePants, there was We Bare Bears, there was Octonauts, and there are plenty of other shows that did get an Annie Award as well, but those are pretty much the main ones. And then, of course, there are a variety of other projects that actually did win an Annie Award, of course. There was War for the Planet of the Apes that actually won for Best Character Animation in a Live-Action Production. There was also Dear Basketball that won for Best Animated Short. There was Pulls Apart that won for Best Student Film. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, there is a commercial called June that won for Best Animated Commercial. And of course there was also Revolting Rhymes that won for Best Animated Special Production, which I would like to point out that both Dear Basketball and Revolting Rhymes, they're actually competing at the Oscars for Best Animated Short. However, those are just the television categories, and yeah, there is an interesting variety that is going on right over there, but the biggest one that people are focusing on is actually, oh, actually, there is one more thing. Sorry, just a step back a little bit. There is one more big thing that actually did happen, is actually Cuphead being a big winner, not only receiving a Special Achievement Award, but it also won another Annie for Best Character Animation in a Video Game. So we can pretty much say right now that Cuphead is a two-time Annie Award-winning video game. Okay, but anyways, going back to what I was talking about, the biggest thing that actually did come out of the Annie Awards, and probably the one thing that people took out of this, is actually regarding in the movies category, where Pixar's Coco did not win, but it actually was, like, it dominated the Annie Awards this year, where Coco actually walked away with 11 of the 12 Annies that are specifically categorized for movies, and every single one, Coco was just the winner. It's like, okay, this is best something for a movie, it is Coco. Like, bam, 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 winning every single one. Now, from there, it is a little bit controversial, and it actually did receive a little bit of mixed results. There are some people that are really happy for Coco, that it really did come out as a big winner, and that it really did prove itself to be such a magnificent animated feature where it deserved to receive all these awards one after another. However, on the other side, though, there are some people that do feel like Coco did come out as too big of a winner, where Coco just feels like it kind of rigged the Annies, where it got literally every single one, and it did not even give a single chance to any other animated feature that was nominated, where there literally was no other winner than just Coco. And that's where people feel like it's a little bit upsetting and a little bit disappointing that there was only one big Annie's winner, and that there was no other animated feature that really did receive any other award. Now, from there, there are a lot of people that actually did draw parallels to what actually happened a couple of years ago at the Annie Awards, when it was Inside Out that was actually the big winner at the Annie Awards. And if you guys remember a couple of years ago, what happened with Inside Out was that it actually won a total of 10 Annie Awards, so pretty much the grand majority of it. However, the only one that it actually did not win was Best Animated Effects, which that actually went to The Good Dinosaur. But it didn't necessarily make things better because that was another Pixar movie, and it pretty much showed that during that year as well, Pixar pretty much dominated the Annie Awards. So that's pretty much what we are seeing right over here with Coco. And after analyzing all this, like, what pretty much happened with Coco and all that kind of stuff, some of you might be wondering which side of the coin would be regarding if I'm happy for Coco or if I'm mad at Coco regarding this. And honestly, I don't know really what to say, but honestly, in this case right over here, in this case with Coco, like, I do feel like I might have to go a bit on the defensive side, because there's one big argument that I have to do with Coco that really would explain a lot about why it actually did win all those awards. And if I may ask, okay, if Coco did not deserve to get all of those awards, then let me ask you, what else? I mean, seriously, that's kind of the big thing with Coco. It's that this year, there really isn't much competition. And of course, it wouldn't be that surprising that Coco actually did win by a landslide compared to literally every single other animated feature that it was pretty much up against. Like, seriously, you have to think about what they pretty much did and what the others have done as well. And if you look back in the previous years where this little controversy actually did occur, like probably the biggest example would be How to Train Your Dragon. That was one that movie literally won every single Annie Awards, and it was really controversial. But the biggest part that really did make it controversial was the fact that the other movies that was released at the time did not win any of them, and those were movies that deserved to have some. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon was released in the same year as films such as Toy Story 3, Tangled, Despicable Me, Megamind, and so much more. And they didn't even give any of those a chance or didn't even give them much attention. In fact, the grand majority of the nominations was just How to Train Your Dragon, and they barely gave any notice to movies like Tangled or even Toy Story 3, despite the fact that critics would unanimously agree that even though How to Train Your Dragon is great, they would say that like the best animated feature of 2010 would have to be Toy Story 3. And again, there was a little bit of controversy at the same time when Inside Out was the big winner at the Annies, because with that one there was a little bit of competition, not as much as in 2010 with How to Train Your Dragon and Toy Story 3 and Tangled and all that kind of stuff, but there was a bit of competition where maybe there should have been other movies that should have gotten the Annie Award. Like, for example, considering that Inside Out was released in 2015, then it would have been nice if movies such as the Peanuts movie, or even Anomalisa, which was really big during awards season at that time, like, it would have been nice to see them actually get some awards, but it was mostly Inside Out pretty much hogging everything, and literally every other award show as well. Like, it was one of those movies where if it's in Best Animated Feature, then you know who's going to be the big one. Where, now let's go back onto Coco. Now, that one actually won, and let me ask you guys, did it really have that much competition? Because let's think about it, at least in terms of the mainstream animated features, there really wasn't much. I mean, Coco was pretty much up against movies such as The Boss Baby, or Ferdinand, or Cars 3, or even, well, what else was there? The Star! Yeah, there was that. There was also Despicable Me 3, there was Smurfs The Lost Village, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, really, there wasn't much competition, and it makes it a lot easier for Coco to actually win those awards. And I mean, sure, like, some people would say that some of the independent films might actually be some legit competition for Coco, but even at that, like, Coco still really went up and beyond with what it did. And that is also another explanation onto why is it that Coco would actually win all those awards. Because there are plenty of these categories where it is for sure that it would win by a landslide. I mean, I think it's safe to say that everybody was pretty much expecting that Coco would be the one that would win Best Animated Feature. And it really was the year that Coco was one of the animated features that was nominated the most at this year's Annies, alongside with The Breadwinner. And many of those, it is for sure that they would win without a doubt, because it really is the best among its category. Like Best Editing, considering that it is directed by one of the master editors in an animated feature, Lee Unkrich, like, of course it would win that. Best Music, of course it would go ahead and win that. Best Voice Acting, of course it would go ahead and win with Anthony Gonzalez's performance as Miguel. What else is there? Best Character Animation. I would think about the scene of when, what was it? Oh, yeah. There were, the scene when they would sing Pollo Loco, and then you would think about the dancing that Hector did during that show. Like, yeah, it would definitely win that. And so much more. Like, a lot of these nominations, yeah, Coco deserved to win those. And, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people would have liked to see some of the other animated films to actually get away with an Annie Award. Like, for example, Coco wasn't the only critically praised animated feature that was released back in 2017. There was, of course, also the Lego Batman movie, and Captain Underpants did actually get some good reviews as well. But even at that, they were pretty much nominated in the categories that it was that there would be no doubt about it that Coco would be the winner. And that's kind of the big thing, is that I think we pretty much all expected that Coco would walk away with a lot of these Annie Awards. Like, they would win the majority of the movies in the Annie Awards, but we didn't expect it to be that big. Like, of course, like I said before, it would definitely deserve many of these awards, like Best Character Animation, Best Music, Best Editing, Best Voice Acting, and all that kind of stuff. But it is a bit unexpected that it would pretty much go ahead and get every single one of them. Now, with all that said, there is actually one category that Coco actually did not win. And there is actually a very good reason. It's because this is the category that Coco could not get nominated into, and that is Best Independent Animated Feature. Pixar, I'm sorry, but you're not an indie. And that one was actually given to The Breadwinner. And I mean, that is probably, one, again, much like Coco winning Best Animated Feature, it is kind of predictable that The Breadwinner would be the big winner in that category right over there. And honestly, if I would like to see some changes, if there would be less awards for Coco to actually win and given to others, honestly, that would actually be one thing that I would like to see is I wish The Breadwinner would have actually gotten a little bit more awards. Like, if I'm not saying like to walk away with like a whole bunch or try to split 50-50 with Coco, but I mean like at least some. If there is a ratio like Coco got away with 9 Annies and The Breadwinner walked away with 3, then I would have probably been happy. Like, if The Breadwinner walked away with a few, like per se, Best Writing, or actually what would have been a legendary moment at the Annie Awards or for any award show possible, for me, I feel like Best Directing should have actually gone to Nora Toomey, since that would actually make her the first ever solo female director to win Best Director at the Annie Awards. In fact, let me actually just go ahead and double check on the directing category. Yeah, Nora Toomey was actually nominated. Now, of course, that's actually a great first big step, but if she would have actually won, that would have been such a legendary moment and a huge great moment for the Annies and in animation in general, and it really would have put Nora Toomey in probably a legendary status. Not to say that she didn't. I mean, like, she already put herself in a great legendary status as it is for her work on The Breadwinner, of course. But it would have been nice if the Annie Awards would have probably recognized that. And that's probably one of the changes that I could have done for the Annie Awards, is maybe give a little bit more to The Breadwinner. And especially, that animated film was absolutely beautiful, and it could have at least deserved a few more awards for what it has actually done, and especially coming from an animation studio like Cartoon Saloon. You know, it really is a beautiful animated film that it is something that truly does deserve it. And I'm sure that there would be people that would argue as well that another animated feature that should have gotten a few awards or at least a bit more recognition, some people would actually argue regarding Loving Vincent, since that one, as you guys probably know, is known to be the first ever oil painted animated feature where every frame is actually a painting. And yeah, I could actually see the argument where some of these should have actually been given to Loving Vincent, at least in some of the individual animation categories. But then again, it was pretty much up with some tough competition, especially with some of the achievements that Coco has done. And I'm not 100% sure if Loving Vincent was actually nominated in a lot of these anyways, so it's hard to pretty much know. But yeah, I mean, I know this is a little bit controversial that Coco would actually be a big winner in this case, but for the most part, I would say that it is well deserved. And one thing that I can guarantee to you is that for next year, in the next Annie Awards, I don't think this thing is actually going to happen again, because in 2018, we're going to have some really big animated features that it's going to make it some pretty tough competition at the Annie Awards, where this is going to be the year where we will see animated features like The Incredibles 2, Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Early Man, and so much more, where we are going to see some animation studios really bringing out their A game and also bringing out some highly anticipated animated features where I'm sure next year with the Annie Awards, they will try to spread them out a little bit where a lot of these are going to be handed to some animated features like one way or another. But either way, I just would like to say congratulations to the entire crew at Pixar and the entire Coco team, along with plenty of the other animation studios and the filmmakers and all that kind of stuff. Just a big congratulations for their big win at the Annies, and also congratulations to all the to the nominees who did work hard and actually did get some recognition at the Annie Awards. So, with all that said, it definitely was an interesting blast this year, and we shall all see you guys next year.